Hey guys, welcome to Next Issue Comics, and my name is Freddie. So I wanted to talk about, or I should say, review Iron Fist 14. This is a book that I picked up back in October, and I wanted to review it. So it came out August of 1977. Art by John Byrne, which I'm pleasantly surprised by because he's one of my favorite artists. Author is Chris Claremont. Dan Green is the inker. Annette Kawecki, if I'm saying correctly, is the letterer. Janice Cohn is the colorist. And Archie Goodwin is the editor. So, the story starts out Iron Fist and Colleen Wing are in the mountains of Canada, escaping or trying to get away from some mercenaries. Colleen gets shot and then rolling down the side of a mountain, and they evade the mercenaries. There are flashbacks in between the story of what's happening to Colleen in the past. So essentially the reason why Danny's in Canada is that he's backing up Colleen. She's in Canada to protect Jaren Hogarth, and she needed some help, so she called him in, and he came down to help her. But by the time he arrives to the chalet where apparently Jaren is at, Sabretooth arrives, and he's there with a bunch of mercenaries, and they get captured. So Danny and Colleen escape, and they make it to the mountains, and she gets shot. She's wounded. She gets a graze off of her head, and then they make it to this small shack, which they hide out for a little bit. The mercenaries later find them, but Danny and Colleen overtake them, and they use their uniforms as a disguise. So while this is happening, there's a flashback scene where while Danny is in Manhattan, he gets attacked by a person that looks a lot like him, but he's more in the shadows, and some of his powers get absorbed by this new guy, so he's not 100%. So Danny or say Iron Fist and Colleen, they make it back to the chalet to try to free Jaren Hogarth and the rest of their security detail, and then they get into a fight. Of course, it's Iron Fist versus Sabretooth. Now, at first, when Sabretooth makes his appearance, the dialogue is kind of hokey and goofy, which is fine for the time, you know. And I was kind of hoping that there wasn't going to be just a couple of few panels. They fight, and something happens where they don't get to finish the fight. But no, they actually do fight in this. And actually, the last battle, it takes place maybe about 4 pages long, so it's a pretty good fight. Sabretooth. Oh, and one thing I have to tell you about Sabretooth's costume is actually it's a simple costume, but it's actually a costume I do like. Sabretooth tricks Iron Fist as he's running, or he's making it across this, I guess, frozen stretch of ground, and the sun comes up and it ends up blinding Iron Fist, so he can't see. So that's when Sabretooth attacks, and it starts going back and forth of them fighting, and then Iron Fist getting beat up pretty good. But then it goes back to his training, where there's a part, it reminds me of like an old kung fu movie, where it has Danny training, and his teacher ties this blindfold around him, and all right, you can't use your eyes, you're gonna have to use your other senses. So Danny ends up fighting, calms down, he uses other senses, and he fights smart. And he wanted to use his power, his Iron Fist power, but or the power of the Iron Fist, but he couldn't. When he was summoning his power, he was starting to get weak, and that was because of his power getting somewhat absorbed from this other character, which we don't know yet, back in Manhattan. So he ends up beating Sabretooth just in hand-to-hand combat, which I'm kind of surprised. He beats him. He uses all of his abilities without his vision, and he ends up beating Sabretooth. So I really actually like that fight. It wasn't many pages of combat, but it was actually pretty cool. I like the fact that he didn't use his powers. He used his straight up skills. Now I don't know what they had in mind for Sabretooth. I don't know if he was just gonna be like a thug, but I don't think this is the same Sabretooth that we saw when Wolverine fought Sabretooth when it was the what was it? It was the oh man, I can't remember the name of that team that he was part of, and it was like almost a whole issue of Wolverine and Sabretooth fighting. And of course, you had Sabretooth with his healing factor, his fighting ability, his animal instincts. So again, I don't know what they had in mind for Sabretooth later on down the road. So this is not the same Sabretooth that you see later on in the years. But this is actually a fun comic, and I was pleasantly surprised to see John Byrne as the artist. I like John Byrne because of all the art that he's done with the X-Men books. And I think I only own 2 Iron Fist books. It's issue 14 and 15, and it's funny, at the end of this, it says Enter the X-Men, and I happen to have that issue, and I read that a long time ago. It's essentially Iron Fist taking on the X-Men, Colossus, Nightcrawler, I believe Wolverine, Storm, and I don't want to say he beats them, but he kind of does beat them. And that was also a fun issue. So, fun issue, really enjoyed it. You know what? I'm saying way too much. I don't know how to speak. Sorry, guys. So, very enjoyable book. I'm gonna try to find other issues of this. I would love to have the first appearance of Iron Fist, which is I think Marvel Premiere 15. I don't have that in my collection. I like to have that in the collection. And you know what I might do? I think I'm gonna compare this fight with the fight that he had. Okay, it was the Marauders. Yeah, that's when Sabretooth was part of the Marauders, and Sabretooth battled Wolverine. I think it was a couple issues where they fought. I have them somewhere. I have to dig them out, read them. Actually, I'll review them. I'm going to compare like this appearance or this Sabretooth as far as abilities versus the Sabretooth that's in the later issues of X-Men in that Marauder battle. All right, guys. If you guys have any comments, anything you want to say, let me know. This is a quick little video talking about Iron Fist 14. I will see you guys in the next issue. Take care. Have a great day. See you guys.